recording, Bailey?
Yes, it's just loading to go live right now. And okay, it looks like the YouTube popped up in the corner, so we're all set.
Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Cripe?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. McGehee?
Here. Sorry.
Mayor Daffis?
Here, we neglected to salute. Go ahead, Ms. Fritzen, go ahead. Did you say something?
I was going to read the notice, Mayor.
Please, sorry.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas the desire of the governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved that the Township Committee, the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
And second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Cripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Please join us in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Stands.
one nation, under God, indivisible,
Liberty.
free and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, friends and neighbors, to our February 1st, 2022 Township Committee meeting. And happy Lunar New Year and happy Black History Month. We are going to get things started in celebrating Black history this evening officially with a very special performance that we're very excited about, followed by our proclamation, our Black History Proclamation that we do every year and revise here and there to reflect current representation. Then we will move over to our boards and committees, and we have a couple of volunteers taking the charge to serve in volunteer positions with our boards and committees. And then we will enter our first public comment period. The first public comment period is always for agenda items only. We will then segue into our Board of Health meeting that will be led by our Board of Health Chair, Committee Member McGehee. Then we will go to reports from departments, administrative reports, reports from elected officials, and then we will get into our discussion items. We have a few discussion items this time around. A resolution in support of opposing the Passaic County Sewerage Commission's proposed new power plant at their waste treatment plant in Newark's Ironbound community. A discussion about joining the cost sharing agreement, the Mayor's Council for the Rahway River Watershed Flood Control Project. An update on Maplewood's food composting pilot. I'll be providing that. And Deputy Mayor DeLuca will lead us in a discussion of requiring tree removal companies to annually register with the Maplewood Department of Public Works. And then we will adopt our consent agenda. I'm not going to go through all the resolutions. They have been adequately noticed. And that will lead us into approval of our closed session minutes from the January 18th meeting and our second public comment period, on any subject matter. And then we will adjourn. So first, before we get started with celebrations, please join us in a moment of silence. We lost the following people recently in our community. Eileen Klein, longtime Maplewood resident and longtime Maplewood volunteer, wife of former Vice Mayor Robert Klein. Longtime Maplewoodian Brian Corrigan. Nathan Jacobson, former Maplewood Planning Board attorney, longtime Maplewood resident and community volunteer. Wilbert Pitt, school crossing guard for the Township of Maplewood since October 2013 to present. He covered Garfield Place and Union Avenue. We suffered 2 COVID deaths in the month of January. Yes, COVID is still looming large over our lives. We're sad to report 2 additional deaths in Maplewood due to COVID, bringing us to a total deaths of 42 in our community. And of course, we want to recognize, as we're about to head into Black History Month celebrations, we also want to acknowledge the tragic passing of Chesley Christ, history-making Miss USA in 2019 and a role model for many little Black girls and young women since, who took her own life the past few days. In recent conversations with those who knew her closely, the licensed attorney and social justice advocate, she wasn't just a beauty queen, was reportedly quoted as saying that despite all of our advances, she was tired of still being invisible and overlooked. The microaggressions were too much to bear. Just tragic at such a young age, 30 years old, for that beautiful bright light of hers to be turned off. May you truly rest in peace, sweet Chesley. Suicide and suicidal ideation is on the rise in our nation. Mental health compromised. This is very serious. If you or you know someone who is experiencing uncertainty, suffering quietly, please reach out to talk to someone. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text from your cell phone for free, HOME, home, to 741-741. For LGBTQ identifying persons who are also suffering quietly, please reach out to the Trevor Project, thetrevorproject.org, and do it today. Let's take a few moments in silence. Thank you. And now we have a very special performance in light of this great occasion, the start of Black History Month, to lift our voices and our spirits. We are going to hear Lift Every Voice and Sing, performed by Madison McGehee.
Thank you, Mayor, and we'll get it started.
Hi, I'm Madison McGehee, and I'll be singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
On to you, Mayor.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Madison McGee. Please relay our gratitude to her for doing that for us. And it certainly was 1,000 times better than our effort with that song a couple of years ago. If you recall, we were terrible. So maybe we'll go to Madison and get some voice lessons from her.
I agree.
Really, that was beautiful, and it's really wonderful to watch her evolve and grow as an artist. So we're really, really proud of her, and I'm sure you are too.
Thank
Committee member McGeehee and Cripe are going to lead us into our Black History Month proclamation. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Daffis. I just have to say, I hope Madison records the second and third voice because that needs to be kept. The proclamation for Black History Month. Whereas every February, Black History Month is celebrated to raise the awareness of the achievements by Black Americans and all people of African descent in the United States. And whereas historian and author Dr. Carter G. Woodson created Black History Week in 1926 to encourage the study of Black life and history. And in 1976, it was expanded to Black History Month. And whereas throughout our country's history, there have been millions of Black Americans who have personified Black excellence by fighting for and making personal sacrifices to create a better America for all through their stellar contributions in science, technology, business, religion, the arts, education, and sports. And whereas these contributions have set a new standard for our nation and the world. And whereas Black American trailblazers included, but are not limited to, human rights activist Harriet Tubman, Toussaint Louverture, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King's closest advisor and March on Washington organizer Bayard Rustin, trans activist and Stonewall legend Marsha P. Johnson, and Malcolm X, literary scholars Maya Angelou, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, and Amanda Gorman, Black queer writer and advocate Audre Lorde, artists and EGOT winners James Earl Jones, Quincy Jones, and Whoopi Goldberg, sports legends Kobe Bryant, Hank Aaron, Doug Williams, Jackie Robinson, LeBron James, and tennis GOAT, that's the greatest of all time, sports legend Serena Williams, and politicians David Dinkins, Harold Washington, President Barack Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, and New Jersey's African-American female trailblazer, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, and
whereas Black Americans have bravely broken racial barriers in the face of unspeakable discrimination and continue to push for racial and social justice. And whereas, as a society, we have witnessed a wide spectrum of bias and bigotry, from infrastructure designed to prevent Black and brown individuals from attaining equity to the horrific images of bigotry and hate directed toward Black Americans, including the loss of life. And whereas Maplewood rejects bigotry and hate, as well as the long history of institutional and structural racism toward Black Americans, which has resulted in social, economic, and other inequities that persist to this day. And whereas Maplewood acknowledges that we as a society and community still have a way to go, and that we all have a responsibility to do our part to continue to address the continuing challenges facing Black people in America today, including mass incarceration, voter suppression, institutional racism, police violence, and hate crime. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, committee members Jermaine Cripe and Frank McGehee, on behalf of Mayor Daffis and the rest of Maplewood's Township Committee, do hereby proclaim February 2022 as Black History Month in the Township of Maplewood, and in doing so, recognize the historical and continued contributions of Black Americans, and that we as a community pause and reflect upon the value of these contributions to all of us, and not just this month, but every month, and that we urge our entire community to dedicate themselves to the principles of justice and equality for all, and to be mindful that diversity, equity, and inclusion, and actively being an anti-racist is a year-round priority. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, that's how you do it. That's terrific. That's terrific. Thank you both very much. Tonight, we embark on celebrating month-long Black History. Next month, Women's History. In May, AAPI Heritage. At the beginning of the summer in June, Pride, and so on and so forth. We are celebrating the contributions of our various heritages and identities. That is who we are as Americans. It is woven into the American fabric. The power of our identities is transformative for social change, personal growth as well. Important to wear them on our sleeves proudly for visibility, awareness, and greater representation, but also to allow us to overcome the pain and trauma and injustice associated with them so that we can lead fuller lives to transcend freedom and empowerment. You know, there's a poignant part in Who's Coming to Dinner where Sidney Poitier's character, he's in an argument with his father, and he says to his father, you know what, Dad? The difference between you and me is that you see yourself as a Black man. I see myself as a man. In his memoir later in his life, Sidney Poitier, The Measure of a Man, he wrote, I never allowed myself to be defined by prejudice. I embraced the fullness and breadth of my own humanity as I helped lift up all of those around me. Certainly the incredible African-American profiles we have mentioned in our proclamation tonight are examples of those who found that fullness, who allowed themselves to transcend while uplifting those around them. Just beautiful and powerful. Thank you again. Happy Black History Month. So that brings us over to boards and committees, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor DeLuca, who has 2 appointments for us to consider.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce our newest appointee for the Maplewood Arts Council, Catherine Porter. Catherine has been here, well, you can tell us how long you've been here. It's you've gotten here and you want to get active, and we really appreciate that. And she actually attended one of her first meeting of the Arts Council last week. So Catherine, why don't you tell us who you are, and let's go from there.
Well, thank you so much for introducing me and for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been in Maplewood for just over a year. We moved here January of 2021. It's our first home with my family. I have 2 daughters. But why am I on the Arts Council? Well, number one, the deputy mayor reached out to me, which was very exciting. I got to work with Dickens Village recently, so I really love just getting in with the community and wherever I can. But I'm also a producer and editor, and so I do a lot of creative work, so I'm very excited. And that first meeting was incredible. We got to hear from some great local educators about things that are going to be very exciting for the community, and I cannot wait to see what happens next, as I'm very passionate about that and excited to get into education however possible. So yeah, I'm just very pumped, and thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, and Catherine filled out one of our volunteer resource forms, as did our next appointee. So for folks watching us, please fill out those volunteer resource forms because we're going through them and looking to fill those vacancies. So, Mayor, I would move Catherine Porter's appointment to the Maplewood Arts Council.
I second it. And welcome to Maplewood, Catherine. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. We adore it. There's not enough good things I could say about the community. So,
Mayor, I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms.
Thank
Bright?
you.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes, welcome to Maplewood.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
You're
Mayor,
welcome.
next up is an appointee to the Affordable Housing Board, Aaron Gubler. And Aaron has lived here for a little bit longer, but he's really looking to get involved right now and has a background that really would be great for the Affordable Housing Board. So Aaron, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I've lived in Maplewood up on Prospect Street for about 8 years. Spent more time in Maplewood over the past 2 years, which really caused me to want to be much more involved. Professionally, I've worked in planning and real estate development in New York City for the past 20 years. I've worked both in the public and the private sectors, starting with the Department of City Planning. And I currently work for a company called Washington Square Partners, which is a development advisory consulting firm where I've worked on both mixed use and also affordable housing projects. Worked on several affordable housing projects recently, including a 250 unit building in downtown Brooklyn that I helped finance and then open with a housing lottery for 200 affordable units. Love to get involved and have the opportunity to work with you all here.
Great. Mayor, I move the appointment of Aaron Gubler to the Affordable Housing Board.
I second it.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Bright?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes. And welcome aboard and thank you for volunteering. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Mayor, you're going to give them a reprieve that they can leave at any time?
They're welcome to join us and see how the sausage is made, or they can return to the regular Netflix programming for the evening, whatever they wish to do.
Maybe we could move them over to the audience and they can decide what to do.
Yeah, I'm going to watch you over on YouTube. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you both very much for coming on board tonight. So this leads us over to our public comment, our first public comment for agenda items only. Mr. Waltz, do you want to give the instructions and take it over from here?
Good evening, Mayor and Township Committee. We'll now begin the first public comment portion of the meeting on agenda items only. If any meeting attendee would like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. We will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak. Please use your full name and full address before addressing the Township Committee. Would anybody like to address the Township Committee at this time? I see no one, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Waltz. We're going to close the first public comment period and move over to the Board of Health meeting. I turn it over to Committee Member McGee, our Board of Health Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Bright?
Here.
Mayor Daffis?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the Board of Health has a discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGeehee.
Yes. And thank you, Ms. Fritzen. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the January 4th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGeehee.
Yes. Thank you again, Ms. Fritzen. I'll now yield the floor to our health officer, Ms. Candace Davenport. Ms. Davenport, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and we will begin the presentation. Just wanted to let everyone know that if you receive a notification from the Essex County, they are doing a public health survey. So please answer the survey. I believe it's up for the next 2 weeks to a month from now, but it's going to help Essex County to determine what public health resources are needed and assess the needs of our county residents. The website will be included in this presentation. Because we are in the winter months, if anyone is struggling with maintaining their utilities or with heat, the Maplewood Health Department has this flyer with a whole bunch of resources available throughout the state to assist you with either paying for your utilities or talking to or PSE&G and other service providers to assist you during this time. Just want to let everyone know, if you're eagerly awaiting dog and cat animal licensing, please note that it is on hold at this time just because we're transitioning over to a new and better electronic licensing portal. And then we will notify everyone. And then once we send out that reminder, we'll give the community a month to get their licensing in online. And then we will institute our annual late fees. It would normally be at the end of last month, but we're postponing that. Moving on to our COVID nursing update, just want to update you that as of January 31st, we now have a total of 4,666 cases. And in the month of January, we had 1,401 cases. Unfortunately, in the month of January, we had 2 additional deaths due to COVID. Here's a trend line from December 1st to January 31st, giving you an idea of what we have gone through for the last 2 months. You can see the uptick toward the middle of December. The solid line are the daily numbers that are plotted. The orange line is the 7-day average, and the green dotted line is the trend line. The most important part to note is the actual trend that is happening here, which is that our daily numbers are decreasing as well as our daily average. We are getting closer to where we were prior to the surge, but we still have a little ways to go, but we are getting there. But you can see how this rapidly went up and then back down again. So we did see an impact in Maplewood. Also to update you, Essex County is now in high community transmission. Last month when I reported, we were in very high. And so across the state, we are also seeing a decrease in cases. Hopefully by next month, we will be in a more high to moderate standpoint across the state. Still, Omicron variant is the dominant strain that we are finding when we do lab sequencing on breakthrough cases. That is the red bar. As you can see from the graph below, Delta, which is the gold color, was the dominant strain, but then Omicron variant quickly became the dominant strain in the last 3 weeks. Here's our vaccination stats as of January 31st. One thing I want to specify here is that our vaccination rate for 12 to 17 years old is 91% now. So if you've been monitoring this statistic, we have slowly and steadily been getting up there. So now our vaccination target is only 9% of unvaccinated eligible individuals 12 to 17 years of age. So this is great. Keep it going, guys. This is wonderful news for the community. So thank you. Likewise, 64% of all eligible Maplewood residents have received their booster or third dose. So this is also very good news as we are still addressing fully vaccinated and boosting against the Omicron variant. Essex County has also provided us with some information on municipal data. Here is the municipal data primary series coverage by at least one dose for Maplewood Township. One of the things I want to update you on is that the 5 to 11-year-old coverage you can see is 77%. That means that 77% of all 5 to 11-year-olds in Maplewood have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And then our coverage for all the other age groups, as you can see, are very high. Again, this is who received at least one dose. So we just have to keep it going. Our community is very pro-vaccine, so we are very grateful for that. Going on to boosters, this is another one that we want to update. So I just want to point out the positive, which is that those who have had more time to get the booster, you can see that those numbers are very high. So we have, 53% in the 18 to 29, 66, 71, 76, 74. So the older age groups had more time to get the boosters. What I want to concentrate on is the 12 to 15 and 16 to 17-year-olds. So the 16 to 17-year-old age group had more time to get boosted. So they're at 44% of our of that age group are boosted. The 12 to 15-year-olds, as you remember, they just recently got approved to get boosted, but that number's at 19%. We hope to see an increase in that, and we probably will, in particular for this age group of 12 to 17. As you know, February 1st, the State Health Department has said that anyone who has not received the booster for COVID but is eligible, that means that they're past the 5 months from their second dose. If they come in contact and become a close contact of a COVID positive individual in school, they would have to quarantine. So if you are fully vaccinated and boosted, you do not have to quarantine. So this is gonna, I believe you'll see that number go up in the next month or so. Just so that everyone knows, as we talked about before, we are now in a 5-day isolation, 5-day quarantine, new guidance. And the State Health Department has created this pretty clear infographic of how to describe it, and the schools are using it. So I just want to make sure the community knows that these resources and infographics are out there to explain if you have a workplace that needs to show the graphic of how this is done. Other things to do while you're in isolation or in quarantine, is to encourage people to wear a mask, avoid travel, isolate from those in your household, hand washing, and monitor for signs and symptoms. As you know, the county is offering testing and vaccination, but starting February 8th, Essex County has a new schedule. Please note that they, as of February 8th, they will be closed on Sundays and Mondays, but open Tuesday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. In addition, 5 to 11-year-olds will be offered vaccination on Tuesday to Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. That is after school. So hopefully that will help out families to get their children vaccinated, as well as on Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please also note, if you're planning on going into to use the Essex County College site in Newark, that they are moving their site to the Essex County parking garage, which is across the street from Essex County College. So they still do have a site there. It's just not at the college, it's right across the street. In case people are not aware, in-home tests are becoming more available. thanks to this free program through the federal government. If you go to covidtest.gov, so covidtest.gov, every household can order 4 free in-home COVID rapid antigen tests. These tests, as you know, help you identify if if you're positive for COVID, and they're used as a red flag to say, if you're positive, go get tested and get a PCR or rapid antigen that's lab confirmed. Likewise, if you don't have the ability to go to a county site or to a pharmacy, you can order a PCR test to be mailed directly to your home, and you can mail it out back to the lab by going to the Vault website, and that website is there above the image. Vault Health is a lab that's working with the state health department, and they will mail you a PCR test to your home. You take the test, you mail it out to the lab, wait until you get the test results, and those will be lab confirmed positive or negative. Makes it a lot easier to do these tests now. So please take advantage of these opportunities. This is moving into the discussion that we have tonight of when to lift the mandatory township-wide mask mandate. So just wanted to give you some context that as we go into our second year of COVID, the CDC has provided further guidance on who should wear a mask, the types of masks, and when to wear one. So I just want to emphasize that who should wear a mask. It seems pretty commonplace, but I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. The CDC recommends people, including children older than 2, should wear a mask in indoor public spaces if they are not fully vaccinated, or if they're fully vaccinated in an area with substantial or high transmission, which is currently our situation, fully vaccinated and with weakened immune systems. And in general, you don't need to wear a mask in outdoor settings, but they recommend that in areas with high numbers of COVID cases, please consider wearing a mask in crowded outdoor settings and in activities where close contact with others who are not fully vaccinated. I'm going to borrow from my colleagues at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to just give you this infographic on the types of masks and the best way to use them. So I know that there's been some debate in the last couple of weeks of cloth masks, surgical masks, and KN95s, but I hope that this infographic can describe to you that KN95s or respirators are the best choice in high risk and high transmission settings. But if you are more comfortable with wearing double masking or a surgical mask or cloth mask around, a majority of vaccinated people or all vaccinated people, that also works as well too. What the CDC recommends is that you wear a mask consistently and regularly when appropriate, all the time, when it's appropriate, and wear whatever mask you have available to you. But just note that the KN95 or respirators will provide more filter coverage for you when you're around other people. And then the other masks protect other people from your germs if you have any. So they both and all work. In addition, consider the situation. Like I said, if you are going to visit a family member who is immunocompromised, consider wearing a KN95 in that situation. Or if you're going into a crowded area like a public transportation, or in a crowded area, indoor or outdoor, you might want to consider wearing a KN95 mask. However, if you're just running into the grocery store to pick up some groceries, you're just doing an in and out, you don't necessarily need to do a KN95 mask. You could put on a surgical mask or a surgical and a cloth face mask. That will work as well. But they recommend it for people who are caring for someone who is sick with COVID-19, or if you're at increased risk for severe illness, if you yourself are immunocompromised, or you're going to work with large numbers of the public and you're in public transportation or crowded indoor outdoor public settings, or if you are not up to date currently with COVID-19 vaccinations. And hopefully that gives you some context, and we'll move into the Board of Health discussion item, which is the lifting of the township-wide COVID mask mandate.
Thank you very much, Ms. Davenport. Before we move into the discussion item, I'd like to open the floor to my colleagues to see if they have any questions regarding your very robust and informative report regarding COVID stats, testing sites, vaccination, and so forth. So I'll now open up the floor for any questions regarding the presentation which was just presented. I'm seeing no questions from my colleagues. So again, report so thorough, there are no questions to ask. I will point out though, which was telling, was your statistic about 1,401 cases in January versus our total amount of cases. That I did the math really quick while you were presenting. 30% of all our cases happened in last month since we started tracking in early April. 30% of our cases. So that's telling. So even though we've heard stories that, oh, this variant is not that bad and so forth, that's false. I can tell you firsthand that I know people very close to me who've gotten the variant and has reacted to them differently. So it's not necessarily a mild for everyone. So do not believe, oh, it's a mild. It's not. It depends on if you're vaccinated, boosted, and also your personal immune system. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our discussion item, which is, as you already articulated, which is the potential lifting our township-wide COVID mask mandate. I'll open the floor for discussion. Or actually, Ms. Davenport, if you want to kind of give a little bit of context, then that will provide my colleagues who may not be 100% familiar with what we're talking about tonight.
Sure. So thank you very much. As you are all aware, we had the township mask mandate instituted ahead of the curve when we were dealing with the Omicron variant, and it has been very successful, I think, in providing a mitigation strategy in the community to prevent further disease, especially as people are out and about and enjoying the town and socializing with others. Having that mask mandate was helpful. As we are moving, as you saw in the graph, out of the Omicron variant, and we are reducing our transmission rate from very high to high. So we are hopefully moving in the right direction to high to moderate. There is a consideration to lift the mask mandate as other towns are doing. You could consider doing it now as some of our neighboring towns have done or are considering doing. I would, however, say that our numbers are still not there where they were prior to the Omicron variant surge. I would like to see it go down further. I know we can, and I know we're heading in that direction. So I think it'd be more prudent to give it just a little bit more time. I just also want to mention that we are just now closing out a lot of our outbreaks that we've been monitoring. So just now, it has taken a while. It has to take 28 days or 2 incubation periods of COVID to close an outbreak. But we've been seeing outbreaks and monitoring them these last 2 months, or at least this last month, in our various settings like schools, group homes, our senior facilities, and our daycare centers. So all of these congregate settings, we have been monitoring outbreaks and are just now closing them out. Happy to be closing them out. So I do think that we are going in the right direction. I would just offer a recommendation to lift the mask mandate toward the end of the month or the beginning of next month.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport. Mr. DeLuca.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree to wait till the next meeting in March. You know, when I walk around in downtown Maplewood on Springfield Avenue and around the other business districts, almost all the businesses have those signs on their doors or in their windows. They are honoring it. I haven't gotten one call or one email in opposition to this. I would prefer, since it's happening and we're keeping people safe, and we're actually, I think, doing a service for the business owners, because they're the ones who are vulnerable from the people coming in and out. And by our taking this position, at least through the March meeting, where we can get another update, another recommendation, I think that will keep all of us safer. And so I would be in favor of just status quo until the March meeting.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Ms. Crack.
I have to agree with Vic. I think that right now, particularly since we're offering a lot of in-person opportunities this month for people to gather for events for Black History Month, we'd just be opening ourselves up to vulnerability that we don't have to expose ourselves to. Part of the reason why I think January was successful is because the first 2 weeks of school were online. Our kids weren't in the same space together. So it would be helpful for us while we're in spaces together to mask. It's a little inconvenient, but also to play the black card, one of the populations that's mostly impacted heavily by this illness have been Black and brown people, who will be out probably more than typically during the month of February for the activities and events. We need to protect our citizenry. We just have to.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. Any other further discussion?
I agree. Let's keep what we have.
Okay.
So next
Ms.
month.
I'm fine with it. I do think though that, I mean, it's a broader discussion. I'm fine with continuing it, but I also think we need to be careful with, we have a really high vaccination rate in the community, as Ms. Davenport just showed us. And so I just think a mandate is one thing, and a business owner having a sign on their store to require a mask is fine. That's not a mandate. So I just think we need to be careful of being almost too conservative to the detriment of some businesses, but I'm fine with moving on with it. But actually, yeah, I think we definitely should lift it by the end of the month unless something drastic changes.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. So at this point, we're going to table lifting the mandate until our Board of Health meeting in March. And it'll be business as usual. I want to thank all my colleagues for your input on this decision, and Ms. Davenport, as always, for helping to bring us to the forefront, and we're all aligned. So thank you so much. With that, we'll move on in our agenda. I will now invite the public to, if they deem so, they can address the Board of Health. Mr. Waltz.
Yes, Mr. McGehee, I have a hand raised. It's Joan Crystal. We'll convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to address the Board of Health.
Thank you.
Ms. Crystal, you're muted. There you are.
No, I'm not.
You
Thank
are, but you are not.
Joan Crystal, 4 Quarter Avenue. I'd like to ask a question about policy at federal level. It turns out that Medicare is not paying for tests for COVID the way private insurance companies are. And I'd like to know if there's any progress in that area. If there's anything that the town can do to lobby on behalf of our seniors.
Well, Ms. Crystal, we can always lobby on behalf of our seniors. What we can do is we can follow up and have conversations with our federal representatives to see what the situation is. I'm not very versed on that, so that's news to me. But we can look into that, follow up with you and the Senior Advisory Committee and get you some information.
Thank you very much.
I believe that the federal government is offering free home test kits. In fact, I ordered mine like a week or so ago. So that's not requiring insurance or Medicare. It's free
No,
for
but
household.
it's not providing as many kits. You can get up to 8 a month through private insurance at no charge by going to a local pharmacy. But that does not apply to our seniors right now who are under Medicare.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Mayor, maybe you and I can catch up offline and figure out who to discuss this with our representation.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, on that note though, hi, Joan. Just wanted to mention that you can also order the PCR kits through New Jersey. That goes straight and gets delivered directly to your home. So that would assist residents, especially seniors. And then through the federal government with covidtest.gov, you can order 4 rapid in-home tests, which are sent also directly to your home. So hopefully that helps too. And they're free, both of them.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address the Board of Health at this time, Mr. Waltz?
Yes, Mr. McGehee, I have Heather Soslovsky. We'll convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm just wondering where we stand on contact tracing. I know there were huge delays in December when the cases spiked. We had COVID in December, tested through the county site, and still haven't been contacted. I still have not gotten any contact. It's been 5 weeks since my positive test. I know I got a call from my son. There was no contact tracing done then. That was a call from the state telling us how to isolate, but we were 3 weeks out at that point, so that didn't really apply. And they asked no contact tracing questions whatsoever. We did report to the school. They asked no contact tracing questions whatsoever either. So I'm trying to figure out where things stand now that the numbers have gone down.
Thank you, Ms. Solowski. Ms. Davenport, would you like to take that one?
Sure. So thank you, Mrs. Soslovsky. We apologize for the delay in contact tracing or no contact tracing that you've received at this time. Unfortunately, because you were, I believe, sick during the COVID surge, we had an extraordinary number of cases and did not have enough contact tracers through the state to get to everyone. In fact, at one point, the state decided to only contact trace anyone 18 and under, so our young children, and anyone 65 and over, again, looking at outbreaks in long-term care facilities. So those were at one point during the surge, the state decided that those were the only 2 groups that and those who are involved in outbreaks, who are the only ones who are going to be contact traced and using the finite resources that the state had. So I also believe that during the time when the winter of December, when you're going into the holiday, we might not have done as much contact tracing, knowing that students were out of school, and there wasn't much contact tracing to be done between students. So again, sorry to hear that you did not get the contact tracing we normally would have done if we had not been in that surge.
Just for clarity, his symptoms began while the day after school closed. So his teachers weren't even informed, which is problematic. And just so we have it publicly, although I know I emailed you, our neighborhood was apparently designated by the state to be Irvington, even though we're not. So that's problematic too, in terms of how we're tracking anything.
I'm not sure why it was designated as Irvington, but we will look into that. Ms. Adams?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, just anecdotally, my daughter has been doing contact tracing for the state of New York for 1.5 years. And during this most recent surge, she reported to me her frustration as a supervisor because they were being directed by the state to just stop contact tracing because they just had not enough personnel to do that while dealing with everything else. So there was a definite change during the last surge, at least in New York and New Jersey, with regard to what they were allowing their own contact tracing staff to be doing. So just let you know, it wasn't just New Jersey, but the other stuff I'm sure Candace will follow up on.
Thank you, Ms.
Yeah,
Adams.
thank you for the notes on the field.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Solowski. Does anyone else want to address the Township Committee at this time?
Mr. McGehee, that is all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Waltz. I will now close the public hearing. And our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, March 1st. So we will reconvene then. At this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I get a second.
Second.
Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yep.
Ms. Croy,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mayor, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Chair McGehee. Appreciate it. Now we're moving over to report from departments. Do we have any reports from departments this evening?
No.
We do not. Moving on to administrative reports. We'll start with Township Administrator John. Johns?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief tonight, as much of my discussion was centered around closed session items that we discussed earlier tonight. As it relates to the budget hearings, we are looking at the dates as we discussed of February 19th, 26th, March 5th, and March 12th at 9 or 10 a.m. I did receive an updated capital items list today that we'll be sending out in short order. I'll be working with the clerk tomorrow to get these advertised publicly based on those times. So that's the dates we're looking at right now. Unless there's any very specific conflicts with any of those Saturday mornings that anybody has, if you don't know at the moment, you can certainly let us know in the next day or so, and we'll adjust accordingly. But that still fits within all the timeframes that are allowed within the state. On your agenda tonight, you'll notice, as we just did discuss in closed session, we're hiring a manager of arts and culture. We're really excited about this hire. We've had a vacancy for some time, and so we're asking your approval of this hire, and we're excited to move forward and fill that vacancy and fill other vacancies within that department so we can increase our efficiency there. Lastly, as you know, the new website has been launched within the last couple of days. It's still a relatively soft launch. We're working over some transition issues, and we've got a lot of them worked out. And I think overall, it's a significant improvement to what's been done, what we had in the past. And the company has been fairly well to us. We use them on the agenda management software as well, so there's going to be a lot of seamless inclusion between the different softwares that we use. So I would encourage you, as you just go about your daily day looking at our website, or really anybody in the public, if you see something that looks like it might need some updating or changing, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know. But we are pretty happy with the overall product at the moment. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Jimes?
Yes. When can we expect the budget workbooks or the budget itself for us to start reviewing before the 19th?
I expect to have some for you, if not by the end of this week or early the following week.
Any other questions for Mr. Jimes? Township Attorney Desiderio.
Mayor, I have no report this evening.
Township Clerk, Ms. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple things. So the first thing I want to bring to the Township Committee's attention is the need to move our current ballot box location due to the change in the law from in front of police headquarters to another location. So after thinking about it and receiving some input from people who really know the town, I'd like to recommend to you first and then to the County of Essex that we relocate it to the Hilton Branch Library, just down the curb a ways in front of the library, similar to where we have it at the police headquarters, right at the front curb on Springfield Avenue. So that would be my recommendation. And the only thing is, I'm trying to find out whether or not we have surveillance camera for that area. It doesn't look that way, but it would not cost the township of Maplewood anything for us to put the mandatory surveillance camera on the ballot box. The County of Essex would pick up the full tab. So I'm asking first if the Township Committee approves of my recommendation, or if you have something else in mind.
Ms. Fritzen, can you tell us what necessitated the change? I'm not familiar with the change.
Well, there's a change in the law that ballot boxes may not be located within 100 feet of a police station. We saw this coming. And even though we have a police and court building, it doesn't matter. It is a police building.
I see. Thank you.
I would move the recommendation.
I'll second it. Do we need a roll call?
Any discussion?
Just wondering, do we want to put it somewhere more centrally located in town? So, or no? I'm fine with it at home, but I was just wondering.
Initially, I was thinking about Town Hall out on
Right.
the curb on Valley, but it sounds like it would be a big project for us with historic preservation to put something on the property here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, unless it was on the sidewalk up front. I mean, the front on the street, like right next to the street.
Yeah, I still think historic preservation might not like to see it in front of their building there.
Right.
I think people find the one at the police station very accommodating, so we're just really moving it down the street some. There's parking there on the street, there's parking in the parking lot, parking on Tuscan, so.
Plus
Yeah,
there's
like I
bus
said,
routes
I'm
that
fine
run
with
it.
it. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just thought I'd raise it so people could know what the decision was and why.
Okay, Mayor, roll call on that then. Ms. Adams,
Yes,
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes,
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
and Mayor Davis.
Yes. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Fritzen. Do you
So I have
any-
two more things, Mayor. I just wanted to report that as far as our outdoor cafes and dining experiences that we have by resolution at the beginning of this year to continue through December 31st, 2022, we have contacted all of the existing licensees from last year. And just to make sure that we do have in our possession up-to-date certificates of insurance. So we requested certificates of insurance through December 31st, 2022, to cover any liability of the township. So all of those contacts have gone out. And my other item is just to report to you that we're having a lot of interest in commuter parking and jitneys and the combos. So I guess, people are going back to work. I do a little survey when I talk to people at the counter, and it seems like people are going back to work for maybe 2 days a week and not the full 5, but we're seeing more and more sales for the permits. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen? Great. So we'll move over to reports from elected officials. And this time around, we'll start with committee member Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only 2 committees met since our last Township Committee meeting. That was the Recreation Arts Committee and the Pool Advisory Committee. In both cases, they were looking at the fee schedules for camps, some billing in regards to how to make sure we don't have folks parking lot, is what they call it, on camps, just allowing more people to have an opportunity to sign up for our various camps and events around township for children and youth, and also setting the rates for the pool advisory. We are looking at having a finance committee meeting with the pool advisory on Friday, well, actually on Thursday, to discuss an increase. They really are leaning more towards not increasing pool rates, primarily because they lost so many members in the last season from the increase. And we're also looking at trying to increase the number of residents who become members of the pool. So keeping the fees at the same rate or very close to the same rate will help us in that endeavor. As far as camps, we got advice from our attorney, Roger, about the camp cancellation fee. And we'll be putting wording together to, again, address the placeholding that's done by some folks that'll allow other people to register and sign up for camps. It'll be a nominal fee, but it'll be enough to encourage folks maybe to think before they click. And of course, as you heard at the beginning, Black History Month has begun, and there are over 35 now events happening in and around the township, many of which are in person. So we encourage any and everyone to come out and register for things from young people, movie screenings, all the way up to conversation about cannabis and how to get your medical marijuana card. So that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Cripe.
Mayor, if I may, and I don't know, maybe Mr. DeLuca is going to expand on this, but with regard to the non-refundability of those fees, I think that's going to have to be either a resolution or an ordinance. And I just need to know if there is a consensus, Ms. Gripe, I don't mean to step on your toes here, please. But is there a consensus to adopt such a policy? And part of the problem is that you may get, as elected officials, lobbied, okay, on this. So we really need to have you understand what this policy means. So I just would like to get a consensus if you want us to go forward in that regard.
I think we should do that. How do others feel about it?
We spoke about this at the Recreation Human Services Committee, and what was told to us is that some folks do camp shopping. They sign up with us, they sign up with another camp, and then they decide to put their kids in another camp, and then they cancel, and we lose a spot. We don't keep a waiting list. You're not ready. Somebody else would. So the idea is to have a cutoff of June 3rd, and people would have to pay a $50 fine or fee if they cancel. And anything after June 3rd, there'd be no refund. So before June 3rd, you'd get a refund minus $50. Right? Is that what we said, Mr. Desiderio? $50?
Yeah, that's my recollection.
Yeah. And then after June 3rd, no refund whatsoever. And we want to do this by resolution so that we're staying together on this and supporting the department.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, very fair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Desiderio, do you need a vote from us on that?
No, consensus. We'll put a resolution together. You'll vote on it when we put it on.
Great.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was a consensus to move forward.
Great, thank you. Committee member McGehee.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. First, the Communications Committee, one of our standing committees, had its first meeting in January. And as Mr. Johns already articulated, one of the big things was our township website with soft launch. It looks good. Soft launches are soft launches. So there might be some bugs. There might be a few things. We'll get around to it. And in the coming weeks, we'll do more of a robust rollout and really, raise the roof and raise the awareness. And in that vein, we also talked about emergency communication enhancements. And one of the things that the committee is looking forward to addressing is moving us away as a township committee from Facebook as the statement or source of truth. We feel strongly that it's time for us to have a focal point, and that should be our website. So we'll be streaming our communications in the weeks ahead, focusing on the website, email blast signups, Nexo alerts, so all communications are aligned and they go through a proper channel and not through social media. So more to come on that. We're happy to report that the Gov pilot rollout continues and we're phasing out the STL, which will be great for logistics for obviously our employees as well as our community. And finally, as we had two wonderful residents join us as now committee members, we are now working on enhancements for board and committee software. It's going to be integrated into the new website. It's going to make it more palatable, if you will, and more of a positive user experience or enhanced user experience, otherwise known as UI. So we meet every month and we will continue to address those topics. The other couple of things I have is that the master plan subcommittee will be meeting in the next coming week. And we're still currently on target to make a decision on our firm and present that at the next TC meeting. The Fields Task Force Committee met on January 20th. It was a great meeting, good meeting. A lot of information was shared by several department heads to have accountability and day-to-day in regards to our fields across our entire town. Many people, including up to this morning, have been following up based on information disseminated to decide which particular subcommittee they'll be interested in. We're gonna have a prioritization subcommittee and also a field maintenance subcommittee. I'll tally that stuff up this week and then we'll start that process as next phase of the task force. And then finally, our shared service team continues to move forward. Myself, Mr. DeLuca, our CFO, and Mr. Jobs, our administrator, met today. We'll be having a meeting with South Orange next week as we move forward toward our resolution. And that is my report, so I'll yield the floor over to Ms. Adams.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McGehee. I just tag on something from our communications committee meeting that one of the main reasons we had a pretty robust discussion of 100% agreement on the social media aspect that we talked about. And one of the upsides that Ms. Barnett had spoken of, how, pretty much little traffic our website gets, and we want our new website to be the official word of what is going on, so that there's not a bunch of discussion and all of us getting tagged or pulled into discussions. We have, we want, and we'll work more on that, as Mr. McGee said, but basically to try to drive people to the website for the answers to their questions. So as he said, more on that later. But so I've my colleagues, female colleagues who are elected officials in South Orange, we met for a brief meeting to discuss Women's History Month, which kicks off March 1st. And we'll be doing some combining of a couple events and doing a few official events from the committee, and then helping promote other organizations, reaching out to them to see what they have, but kind of streamlining it a little bit to make it, we've noticed less attendance when there's a lot more events. So we're gonna rein it back in a little bit and really celebrate Women's History Month that way. Also, the recycling RFP for the joint RFP between South Orange and Maplewood is being drafted now. Our engineer and CFO are working on checking the 73-page one that the purchasing agent in South Orange sent over, and trying to get that all aligned. And we'll probably they'd like to get it out on the street February 8th. So we'll see if it's ready in time. It may have to wait a little bit longer. And Memorial Park Conservancy is going to be presenting a draft master plan of shrubbery plan for Memorial Park, much like the overall tree plan that I pushed for when I first got elected, and 4 or 5 years later, because it's so incredible amount of work. We have that and SHPO approved, so that replacing trees and planting them and keep bringing the park back to its former beautiful self is easier without those steps. So the same is true for the shrubbery in Memorial Park. There's a lot missing. There's a lot that's needed along the banks of the river as it goes through to shore it up, so to speak, to make sure it's not going to fall and break the walls. So there's a lot of going into it, a lot of historic research of what was originally planted, and so we'll be looking at that at next week's Engineering Public Works meeting. And I really thank the Conservancy for their dedication and their work on things like that. And I think that's all I have. That's it. Thank you.
We are going to move on to Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to alert my colleagues that tonight on the resolution list on the consent agenda, we have resolution 5422 and resolution 5522, which I guess puts in action our grant agreements for the electric vehicle charging stations that we'll be putting around town. We'll be putting 5 of them at Town Hall in the parking lot, and then another 5 that will be located around town. For example, the Indiana parking lot, the pool parking lot, the Hilton branch of the library, and a couple other places. So we're moving forward with that. That's a project that we're going to accomplish this year. And we talk about infrastructure and getting ready to move to electric vehicles. We really need the charging stations in place. Resolution 5922 is to authorize the receipt of bids for the library construction. Believe it or not, we're moving there. It has been a bear, believe me, putting together this bid packet. Even before we got the drawings from the architects, we're up to 200 pages plus. So we're targeting March 10th to go out to bid. So This resolution will allow us to submit the proper paperwork to the state before we go out to bid in over a month from now. And then we're hoping to come back to the Township Committee and the Library Board in May with a recommendation of a contractor. So we're moving forward, and all these steps have to take place, but we're getting there. Next, the Neighborhood Preservation Program grant that we have in partnership with the Springfield Avenue Partnership, which is $125,000 per year for the next 5 years. We had focus groups last week, and Mr. McGehee worked with Nicole Wallace on the business and property owner focus groups. I did the resident focus group, and we've gotten really good information from both of those groups. A lot of synergy between both of their comments. We also got 300 plus people who filled out the survey. So we're putting this all together, and we're submitting to the state on February 15th, our work plan and budget, which will come to the Township Committee for its approval. So you will be seeing that in the next few weeks, rather. Next, I just want to alert folks that we're going to be having a Sustainable Maplewood meeting soon, because we are getting ready to submit our actions for Sustainable Jersey certification. Believe it or not, we only have 4 months to go till we have to get this stuff in, and it is a lot of work to pull all this stuff together. So we're going to go for silver again, which is the highest you can get, and we'll be putting that together in the next few weeks of having our meeting and getting all the various pieces of our government and our volunteers to be working on this. And just lastly, I want to alert everyone that on Resolution 5722, which has to do with the Lexington Avenue paving, I will be abstaining on that, since that's where I live and I don't want to vote on that. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeLuca. Great reports from everyone. You covered several of my topics, so that's great. And I have a few discussion items, so I won't report too long here in this segment. Want to remind everyone that Community Board on Police meets tomorrow night, always the first Wednesday of each month, starting at 7:30. We're still on Zoom. And that link is on the new website, which is amazing. And come on by and find out what we're working on. The Community Board on Police will be presenting its annual presentation this year as part of the Township Committee meeting on the, I think our March 15th meeting. I'll confirm that and get back to you all. But we're hoping to get more residents to get to see their work and to learn about how they can get involved with the Community Board on Police's efforts. I attended my first joint meeting of Essex and Union. We're watching some federal litigation out of Ohio and some of the funny stuff that the EPA is doing as it relates to stormwater runoff into the sewer. It could be something that would cost all of our little towns way too much money. And I'll have more details on that soon. The joint meeting has obviously has its own counsel and is looking at what it can do to fight this litigation. The Rawway Watershed, I'll be talking about that in discussion. The White House released some initial information about the infrastructure grants that we're all going to be eligible for. I shared that information very quickly with our engineer and our chair of engineering and public works, Mr. Deputy Mayor DeLuca, who will make sure that we don't miss out any opportunity to apply for infrastructure grants. Speaking of infrastructure grants, the Department of Environmental Protection is being very outward facing in the communities, talking about climate change, talking about water infrastructure plans, and how we all can basically raise our hands and get some money from them to do some of our stormwater mitigation and flood mitigation efforts that we can't ordinarily do on our own. I attended a couple of those meetings and shared that information with our engineer Kittner, and all of that information will be covered at our next engineering public works meeting next week, I believe. Composting pilot, I'll be talking about in a minute. Budget, we covered. Lunar Fest, happy Lunar New Year. Again, I want to thank Soma Cross Cultural Works and Seton Hall University and our own Community Services Department in putting on a fantastic Lunar Fest a couple of weekends ago. We really had a lot of people there. I understand that the organizers had ordered about 500 bands, as they were checking Vax cards. And they ran out of those and had to use stickers. So there were well over 500 participants. We had people from New York City. We had people from neighboring communities. And it was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate, AAPI heritage, and to once again thank the governor for signing the mandatory AAPI curriculum into law. And something like that would not have happened without celebrations like this, because these celebrations are also political. They're also advocacy tools. So we're excited about that. And that is my report. Thank you. And I'm waiting for someone else to say what we're doing next, but that's me. Okay. So now we're going into our discussion items, and I have the first few. The first one is a resolution that's on the agenda for adoption tonight on the consent agenda. This would be a resolution in support of opposing the proposal that the Passaic County Sewerage Commission has put forward in terms of backup power at their existing waste treatment plant in Newark's Ironbound community. What they want to do there is put in another gas burning backup plant. And while that thing will not be running all the time, it will be running at least 32 hours each week, which would send even more pollutants into a highly dense area and already, over polluting the Ironbound community, which, we all dump on all the time. Governor Murphy has jumped into this debate. He and his administration have urged the Passaic County Sewerage Commission to reconsider this and to back off from the gas burning power plant and to consider a hybrid one using in part renewable energy. This is an issue of environmental justice. These are our neighbors. Our trash goes there. We owe them to do the right thing here. And we've always taken a stand on these issues, even if they weren't right here in our backyard. So I'm asking for my committee members, my colleagues' support here in opposing this proposal as it stands currently. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, why don't you move that off the consent agenda right now? Resolution 58-22.
All right. I moved it off. Okay.
Second.
Great. Do we need should we do a roll call then?
Yes. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Croy?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you all for your support. I think this is important. We're going to send this to our state representatives and to DEP and other regulators in our state. And thank you for taking the time to consider this as you have. I know I sent you a lot of information. There's been a lot of press about this project. Next, we move over to the Mayor's Council for the Rahway River Watershed Flood Control Municipal Cost Sharing Agreement. We have in previous years participated in this. Our contribution is $5,000. Milburn continues to be the lead agency. It's about 7 townships, including us. They recently added Garwood. And, like I said, we contributed, I think, in 2017 and before that in 2015. We haven't in recent years. And I think the reason was because there wasn't really a lot of activity. The money was going into lobbying efforts for a solution, a mitigation solution. and there wasn't really a lot of activity there. There is some activity though recently in terms of putting together an engineering proposal that the Army Corps of Engineers would consider, and that is a bypass plan. We know that Senator Booker and Senator Menendez recently met with the Mayor's Council, so there's some renewed interest to reconsider previous plans in this new bypass plan. And we're hearing that Congressman Payne is also interested here in moving the Mayor's Council work effort forward. So I think that contributing keeps us in the game in terms of any long-term solutions here, in terms of flood control mitigation that we would benefit from here in Maplewood as well. So I'm asking for your support.
Yeah, I support this, Mayor. I mean, a lot of work when I was mayor went into like getting them rolling. Basically, it was pretty dormant, and previous Milburn mayor and others, we really started to push the envelope and got to the point where we're alive again. And so I'm a heavy yes on this. We got to keep this moving.
Any other discussion or questions?
Mayor, I'd move this one off the consent agenda also, 62-22.
Okay, so we'll take a vote. Roll call.
I'll second the motion first.
Oh yeah, who moved it? Did someone move it?
I'll move it then. What was the number? 57 what?
62-22.
62-22. I'll move 62-22.
Second.
Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Thank you for your support. That $5,000, by the way, is going to come out of our longstanding budget line item called boards and committees, where we typically keep about $10,000. So that will leave us with a balance of $5,000. So that's where that $5,000 will come from. The next topic on discussion is the volunteer code of conduct. We published a proposed code of conduct. This literally mirrors the code of conduct that we as Township Committee members who are also volunteers adhere to. We've never done this before, but we should have. I think our volunteers should know what's expected of them in terms of the relationships with other members that they volunteer with, and in terms of how they conduct themselves in the various boards and committees. Any discussion?
I would just add that I think it's important that if you are a volunteer at any level, be it elected or non-elected, that, that you have to treat, you should read the ethics, but basically you want to treat each other with respect. And I think that it's good for all our committees to see this and understand that, even in a committee, you can agree to disagree, but you should respectfully do that.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think the remaining issue here is how we are going to disseminate this to all of our volunteers, recently appointed and older volunteers. Everyone who's a current volunteer in a board or committee is going to receive this. And the question is, how is it going to be disseminated? And are we asking them to sign it as an affirmation and return it back to us? Ms. Fritzen, did you have some ideas here?
Oh, yes, Mayor. I think, just following through, like anyone that was reappointed at the last Township Committee meeting would be receiving it. I believe the direction of the governing body was for all of our volunteers to receive it, whether you were a chairperson or just a member of a committee. So I'm going to send it out with a cover letter and send the resolution along with the signature sheet and ask to have it returned back as a condition of their continuing as a volunteer for the township.
Thanks, Ms. Fritzen. Did you say by mail?
Well, it's probably going to go two ways, mail and email. If we have everybody's email, we try to, follow through that way. But yeah, we also trying to make it so easy to get things back that we send a stamp self-addressed envelope. Otherwise, it's tough to even get oaths of office back.
Right. I was going to recommend emails, so I'm glad we're pursuing that. And we do have emails from most of our boarding committee volunteer members anyway. Any other discussion here for my colleagues? Questions, concerns?
I just have a point, Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
Okay, so we drafted this and the form it's drafted is acceptable to the governing body to put on for next meeting? For consensus? Okay. And my second thing is I would just suggest, Ms. Fritzen, if we can add this as a New Year's Day resolution, we have the code of conduct for the governing body, and I think it probably, so we don't lose track of it. If we put it on the New Year's Day agenda, I think it would be a good way to keep it in force. Unless anybody has an objection to that. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. If there are no other comments or concerns, we'll move forward. We'll consider that done. And the only other item that I have on the agenda for discussion is not really discussion, but rather an update. I don't have a formal proposal for you to consider. Just want to let you know that our composting pilot has done really well. It has exceeded all of our expectations. In just 5 months, we have been able to divert, again, out of the incinerator on the heels of the Ironbound community, 9,671 pounds of food waste. That's nearly 5 tons. That is really, really impressive. So the program has been successful. It's also been reported by Public Works and by Michelle and Java Bradley of Java's Compost that there have been no issues with the equipment. The participants are following all the rules. The bags are tied. The containers are never overloaded. Granted, we did this towards, late fall, and now we're in winter. Odors have not been a problem. As I said, DPW has also been very impressed with how everyone is conducting themselves when they do their drop off. The current location has been very successful at DPW and remains acceptable. We are going to be meeting as a committee again in the next couple of weeks to decide what do we do next. So I'm going to just get your temperature here to see if you're interested and you agree with me that we should carry on for another 6 months. Our 6-month pilot is set to end March 1st. So I will come back to you at the next TC committee meeting with a proposal for you to consider. But generally speaking, I think everybody wants to carry this on. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. We can emulate Millburn. Remember, Millburn was our inspiration here to begin with. We can emulate them in terms of carrying on the pilot rather, as is for another 6 months, not increasing the participants, leaving it as it is. We may want to talk about the cost. Currently, the township is really fronting most of the cost. It's about $8 a month for Maplewood residents. In Millburn, it's about $20. So we can reconsider the fee. We're going to do a survey to all of our current participants to gather from them their experience and their wishes and desires and how they feel about an alternate fee structure. Let's see how many people say, hey, I want to pay more for this. Maybe they will, because people are really committed to this. There's a morality here above and beyond. It's about doing the right thing. The other thing that we can do is we can decide if there's a consensus to expand beyond the current participants, to double from the 50-55 that we have now. We've spoken to Java's Compost. They said that they have the capacity for us to double. But, again, we could keep things as they are for now for another 6 months and allow Java's Compost additional time to prepare for a doubling in capacity. Javas is handling other municipalities as well, and other municipalities that have carried on their pilot program into expanded capacity. We do know from Public Works that if we were to expand at this moment in time, we would have to reconsider the location. We'd have to look at that and come back to you all with more information about that. But for now, the temperature is, if there's an agreement that we all do want to move forward, I will take it back to the committee and we will return to you with a proposal. Is there such a consensus?
Which committee? I thought it was Engineering Public Works, no?
It's the
special other committee. I think it should also go to Engineering Public Works for full, for our normal kind of discussion with the directors of that.
Sure, I agree with that too. And Virginia was planning on presenting at the next Engineering Public Works Committee meeting anyway. So,
okay.
So that's why we're not doing really a formal proposal tonight. We're just kind of giving an idea of how well it's gone and getting a sense of whether there's an interest to extend the pilot beyond March.
Mayor, just two questions. One, when the initial sign up, and forgive me for not remembering, the initial sign up, it was like 50, is that correct?
Yes.
And then we had more than 50 people interested, or no?
We do have, yes, we do have people on the waiting list, as it were. We had close to 300 signups actually.
Okay. And then my second question is, and please let me know, educate me, what prevents us if we decided, A, to move forward and to expand by not working with another municipality to use one of their locations and have Maplewood residents be in that particular municipality?
Well, we'd have to talk about the logistics of that, but there isn't anything that would prevent us from doing that. I don't think there's anything that would prevent or prohibit us from doing that. If we were to say, for instance, that we were going to work on this with Milburn, since they're right next door and they're doing this. So, we could talk about that in Engineering Public Works Committee and with the pilot committee, the composting pilot committee.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Okay, so that's all I have. We have another discussion item. Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going to pop something on the screen. On our last Engineering Public Works and Planning Committee meeting, the Department of Public Works Administration recommended that we consider the registration of tree removal businesses. So we are proposing that annually tree removal businesses register with the Township DPW. We give them a form. It's $50 a year. What this would allow us to do is to streamline the tree removal application process, because we will have all the information about each tree removal company. They'll know our rules. We'll be able to have contacts, and it'll be a much tighter system than we have right now. So if we're favorable to that, we can instruct Mr. Desiderio to put it on the next agenda as an ordinance for introduction.
So, Mr. DeLuca, I just have two questions. Do we know the number of businesses out there currently operating in Maplewood?
We do not.
Okay. I saw the annual fee was $50 to register, which I'm on board with. I was just curious from a
I think that's part of why the administrative assistant at DPW wants it. Plus, every time they come to get a tree permit, they have to fill in all the same information about the company and provide a COI and do all this stuff. So it's really redundant, and so streamlining it, as Mr. DeLuca said, is one of the main reasons, also so we can communicate with them about, like we do with the landscapers.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Desiderio, can you put it on for next meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. And here we are on our consent agenda. Committee member Kripe, are you ready?
Hit me with it.
All right, here we go. We've practiced offline. We practiced. So can I get a motion moving items A through D on the consent agenda and F through H?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes, except for item D, which is resolution 5722. I abstain.
Right.
so noted. Mr. McGehee,
Ms. Craig, come see me. We're going to improve your tutoring on this one. And yeah.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, I think Ms. Kripe did fabulously.
Yeah, but we want her to talk more.
Yes, agreed. We'll get there. It's only, oh, I almost said it's only January. See, it's not January. Okay. This brings us to the approval of our closed session minutes for our Tuesday, January 18th meeting. I move the approval of closed session minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And we are now at the second public comment period for any subject matter. Mr. Waltz, do we have any members of the public?
Good evening again, Mayor and Township Committee. We'll now begin the second public comment portion of the meeting on any subject matter. If any meeting attendee would like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. We will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak. Again, please full name and full address before addressing the Township Committee. Mayor, first we have Joe Strupp. Convert you to a panelist, allow you 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Yes, Joe Strupp, 7 Yale Street. I actually came before the governing body a few weeks ago when my book came out, A Long Walk Home, which is about the unsolved murder of Carol Ann Farino. She, of course, was a Columbia High School student, killed 55 years ago, and her murderer still hasn't been found. And part of the story, if those who saw it and read the book, thank you. It's still available at Words and online at Amazon. Know that the Maplewood Police and more importantly, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office have failed to provide any information on the case, claiming it is still an open investigation, although very little has been done in the last 50 years. But more importantly, that her sister, Cynthia, who is still with us and was 11 years old at the time, has been denied any access to information in the case by both the Maplewood Police, but I believe more so by the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, which of course oversees such cases. In that time, I have created 3 podcasts on the case that I will put in the chat and is available on Anchor FM if you search for Carol Ann Farino, but also a change.org petition has been posted. I believe I sent this to all the members of the committee except you, Ms. Kripe, who unfortunately I am not connected to on Facebook, but gladly will be, asking that the Essex County Prosecutor's Office not only reopen the case, but provide information to Carol's sister, Cynthia, so that she can know what's been done in the case of her murdered sister, who not only was a former Maplewood resident, but a former Columbia High School student, and of course her sister, a graduate of Columbia High School, class of 1971. So I would ask that you consider, all of you, signing this petition, and please do what you can to reopen this case, either with the Maplewood Police Department or more likely the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. And again, that's at change.org, search Carol Ann Farino, and at Anchor FM podcasts. And of course, at Words, you can get the book and also on Amazon.com. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Strupp. Congratulations again on the book, and thank you for raising awareness on this. We will see what we can do with our Essex County colleagues.
Thank you.
Promise you that.
Mayor, I see no one else.
No one else. That means we get to motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Mayor,
us.
do we have to take a vote? We can take a voice vote.
Let's take a vote.
I'm going to take a roll call vote.
Oh, jeez.
Why?
Mr. Adams?
We're changing stuff.
Mr. Adams?
Yeah, yes, I want to
Right.
read.
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
No.
What?
Yeah, right.
Mayor
He's at the
Daffis.
bookstore.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us, and see you back on the 14th of February on the same channel right here.